Why has a superpower thousands of miles away chosen to plant its boots, flags, and heavy armor so deeply into the arid soil of the Levant and the Persian Gulf? The United States' sprawling military footprint in the Middle East is neither accidental nor temporary. It is the physical manifestation of a decades-long pursuit of global hegemony, resource hegemony, and systemic choke point control. By examining the intricate geopolitical calculus of Washington, we uncover how a network of air bases, naval ports, and listening outposts acts as an iron padlock on global trade. This infrastructure protects Western energy routes and aggressively projects American power directly into the backyard of hostile states.
Geopolitically, the primary driver for this extensive presence is the safeguarding of international commerce through crucial maritime corridors, most notably the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab al-Mandab. Through these narrow aquatic arteries flows a massive chunk of the world's daily petroleum supply. Controlling or stabilizing these corridors gives Washington immense leverage over global markets. Beyond energy, the footprint is designed as a forward defense mechanism to achieve dual containment against regional adversaries while securing the survival and military qualitative edge of key allies like Israel and the Gulf monarchies. By anchoring its forces permanently in the region, the U.S. prevents the rise of a singular, dominant regional hegemon that could defy Western alignment.
Technically, this strategy relies on an incredibly diverse grid of installations, which independent researchers estimate to span a web of various permanent and secretive tactical locations. These facilities range from massive, self-sustaining micro-cities to austere forward operating sites, FOS, and highly classified drone launch pads. At the heart of this grid is Qatar, which hosts the sprawling Udeid air base in the desert outside Doha. Serving as the forward headquarters for U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, Udeid features a massive runway and the highly sophisticated Combined Air Operations Center. This facility orchestrates all military aviation, stretching from Northeast Africa across to South Asia. Just across the water, the small island nation of Bahrain serves as the maritime anchor of American power by hosting the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet. Headquartered in Manama, this naval command controls warships, strike groups, and amphibious units. It patrols the Arabian Gulf, the Red Sea, and parts of the Indian Ocean to enforce blockades and freedom of navigation. In terms of sheer logistics and troop staging, Kuwait represents the heavy armor vault of the U.S. Army through facilities like Camp Arifjan and Ali al-Salam Air Base. These installations hold massive equipment stockpiles, maintenance yards, and staging grounds. They allow the Pentagon to rapidly deploy mechanized infantry divisions anywhere across the landmass. Further inland, the U.S. maintains smaller but highly strategic tactical footprints in nations like Jordan via the Al-Azraq Air Base, alongside controversial rotational outposts in Iraq and northeastern Syria. These forward outposts focus intensely on counter-terrorism operations, intelligence gathering, and disrupting cross-border militia supply lines. The sheer volume of human capital backing this hardware is staggering. Under normal baseline conditions, the U.S. sustains a rotating force of 30,000 to 40,000 troops in the theater. However, amid a highly volatile climate and severe geopolitical friction, that number has surged. Recent official updates reveal that the Pentagon has dramatically escalated its force posture, pushing the deployment to over 50,000 American military personnel active across the region. This includes thousands of specialized Marines, Navy personnel, and rapid response assets like the Army's 82nd Airborne Division. The technical inventory deployed alongside these troops represents the pinnacle of modern warfare machinery. Air superiority is maintained via squadrons of advanced F-35 Lightning II, F-15E Strike Eagles, and rugged A-10 Warthog ground attack aircraft.
These assets are constantly backed by heavy strategic bombers and a massive fleet of MQ-9 Reaper drones.
On the high seas, naval power is projected via multi-carrier configurations, often featuring premier capital ships like the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln. Guided missile destroyers, cruisers, and stealthy nuclear-powered attack submarines cruise regional waters, bristling with precision-guided Tomahawk cruise missiles. To shield this immense concentration of forces from retaliatory strikes, the U.S. has wired the region with a dense, layered air defense umbrella. This includes land-based MIM-104 Patriot missile batteries, THAAD, Terminal High-Altitude Area Defense Systems, and sea-based SM-3/SM-6 interceptors. These systems protect high-value military hubs and vital local commercial infrastructure.
The current operational status of these bases has undergone a radical, violent transformation. Following the major outbreak of the US-Israel-Iran war, triggered by the collapse of nuclear negotiations and massive domestic crackdowns within Iran, Washington launched large-scale airstrikes deep into Iranian territory. In a fierce and unprecedented retaliatory campaign, Iran responded by unleashing massive salvos of advanced ballistic missiles and explosive drone swarms. These targeted U.S. military facilities across the Arabian Peninsula and the wider Levant. This onslaught shattered long-standing assumptions about the absolute safety of forward-deployed American hubs. According to confirmed intelligence reports from groups like the Council on Foreign Relations and CNN investigations, at least 16 U.S. military installations across 8 countries sustained heavy physical damage. The concentrated precision strikes targeted multi-million-dollar aircraft, command centers, and crucial radar systems. Particularly devastating blows were dealt to the protective radomes housing vital satellite communication dishes, crippling real-time data transmission networks. Major, bustling military installations like Camp Buehring in Kuwait were described by commanders as heavily ruined and largely evacuated after enduring sustained barrages.
This widespread devastation has rendered at least 13 U.S. bases nearly uninhabitable for long-term personnel stationing. This crisis has forced CENTCOM to enact emergency troop dispersals and rapidly pivot away from vulnerable, highly concentrated fixed-base structures. The human cost of this conflict has steadily mounted, breaking through historical thresholds of peacetime deployment. The Pentagon's adjusted official casualty tallies indicate that 18 American service members have been killed and well over 500 others wounded since the outbreak of hostilities. Fatalities have occurred across multiple flashpoints, including drone strikes on equipment silos at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, rocket impacts in northern Iraq, and ballistic missile attacks on bases in Jordan. These losses have sparked intense political debates in Washington regarding the core vulnerability of these forward forces. Furthermore, the intensity of the war has triggered an alarming depletion of the U.S. military's strategic munitions inventory. Defense analysts report that the military has been burning through its stockpile of Patriot air defense missiles, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and SM-3 interceptors at an unsustainable rate, significantly degrading global readiness. Congressional research data highlights massive equipment losses, confirming the destruction or severe damage of at least 42 high-value U.S. aircraft. The documented losses include frontline F-15 fighter jets, advanced airborne early warning aircraft, aerial refueling tankers, and sophisticated intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance (ISR) platforms. Together, these assets formed the backbone of the United States' ability to project air power and sustain continuous operations across the Gulf region. The loss of these high-end systems carries implications that extend well beyond the immediate battlefield. Surveillance aircraft that once provided near-continuous situational awareness over the Gulf waters have been degraded,
while the reduction in fighter and support aircraft limits the US military's capacity to maintain air superiority and conduct prolonged operations. In operational terms, these losses represent not only the destruction of expensive hardware, but also a significant erosion of the networked capabilities that had long underpinned US dominance in the region.
Geopolitical thinkers increasingly argue that this conflict marks a turning point in the future of American power projection across West Asia. For decades, the United States relied on a dense network of permanent military bases, pre-positioned equipment, and forward-deployed forces to deter adversaries and rapidly respond to regional crises. However, the conflict has demonstrated that advances in long-range precision missiles, drones, and other standoff strike capabilities have fundamentally altered the strategic environment, making even heavily fortified installations far more vulnerable than in previous decades. Although Gulf partners remain reluctant to completely sever security ties with Washington, the conflict has exposed a growing strategic dilemma. Fixed military bases, once regarded as the cornerstone of regional deterrence, are increasingly viewed as potential strategic liabilities because their locations are well known and can be targeted with relative precision during a crisis. As a result, analysts suggest that future U.S. military strategy in West Asia may place greater emphasis on dispersed deployments, rotational forces, naval assets, and flexible expeditionary operations, rather than relying primarily on large permanent bases that have become increasingly vulnerable in modern high-intensity warfare.
The Pentagon is now confronting what many defense analysts describe as an unavoidable overhaul of its forward-basing strategy. The traditional model of concentrating large numbers of personnel, aircraft, and critical infrastructure at a handful of permanent bases has become increasingly difficult to sustain in an era dominated by precision-guided missiles, armed drones, and long-range strike systems. Facilities once considered symbols of American military reach are now viewed as attractive, fixed targets that can be located and engaged with unprecedented speed and accuracy, raising the operational and political costs of maintaining such deployments. Looking ahead, the United States is widely expected to shift away from this high-density, politically sensitive basing model in favor of a light footprint strategy. Rather than relying on large permanent installations, the new approach emphasizes flexible maritime access agreements, rotational deployments, pre-positioned equipment, and highly mobile, dispersed forces capable of operating across multiple locations. By reducing force concentration and increasing operational flexibility, the Pentagon aims to complicate enemy targeting, improve survivability in a high-tech missile environment, and preserve its ability to project power without exposing large numbers of troops and strategic assets to a single concentrated strike.